Hello friends, James Stephenson back with another video comparing Tesla against Ford and General Motors. So these companies are really different. Of course, Ford and GM sell way more cars every year than Tesla does each. So it makes it difficult to compare the profitability of these companies against each other because they're different size companies. You know, GM and Ford each sell dozens of vehicles. Tesla only sells 4, right? So I put a few videos out that compare some of the headline numbers from the earnings releases that just came out over the past couple of weeks, and I want to share those with you. So first, we'll check in on Loki's bed and see how Loki's doing. He's doing okay. Then we will share my desktop. You can keep an eye on Loki if you want to. I'll just move this over a little bit to keep both of Loki's ears in the shot, because you don't want to cut off Loki's ears. And let's talk about GM's earnings numbers. So the first one I have here is deliveries. GM delivered 2.613 million vehicles. Now, what time period are we talking about? It says at the top. We're talking about year-to-date Q3 2022. So I took these numbers right off of GM's earnings release in the year-to-date Q3 column. All right, and these are wholesale deliveries because these are the deliveries of cars that General Motors made and then sold to GM dealerships around the world. This does not include Chinese joint ventures like the Wuling Mini, because General Motors doesn't make the Wuling Mini. Wuling makes the Wuling Mini, right? And they sell those cars for like $4,200 each. It's like the tiniest little golf cart of an electric vehicle you ever saw. So GM makes almost no profit off of that vehicle, which is why they say in their earnings release that when you're comparing their revenue against something, you should compare it against their wholesale deliveries of cars that they made and sold to dealerships, which is what that number is. Okay, next, the revenue. GM's revenue was $113.6 billion over the year-to-date Q3 2022, with profit, or net income, GAAP net income, of $7.935 billion. So how good is that profit number? Is it good? Is it bad? How do we know? Well, let's compare it against a couple of things that we just saw here. So firstly, let's compare it against the revenue. If I divide the net income into the revenue, what do I get? I get a GAAP net income margin of 7.0%. All right, so that's their profit. GM makes 7 cents on every dollar of revenue as bottom line after-tax profit. Then the other thing we can compare this net income against is the number of deliveries. All right, how much profit is GM making per delivery? Well, you take this number, you divide it into that number, and you get $3,037 worth of profit per delivery, bottom line, after tax. All right, let's compare all those against Tesla and see what Tesla's numbers are. So Tesla deliveries, a lot lower, less than 1 million so far this year. It'll be more than 1 million by the end of the year, maybe something like 1.2 or 1.3 million, right? Then for revenue, so far this year, Tesla has made $57.1 billion worth of revenue and net income of $8,869 million. So hold on. This number is bigger than this number. Even though Tesla is delivering about 1/3 as many units, they're making more profit than GM is. So let's see those as metrics. All right, if I divide this into the revenue, that gives me a GAAP net income margin for Tesla of 15.5%. That's more than twice as good as GM's 7% net income margin. How about profit per delivery? Well, you take the 8.9 billion almost, you divide it into the 57 billion of, the 0.9 million of deliveries, and you get $9,761 worth of profit per delivery. This is world class. Both of these are GAAP net income margin and profit per delivery. Those are among the best numbers you'll see reported by any company that sells automobiles globally. So that's GM and that's Tesla. I did tack on one more after Ford reported their earnings. You can see I tweeted this October 25th. Ford hadn't reported yet, and then they did, so I added them. So if I go down the page, here's what Ford reported. Deliveries of 3,084,000 wholesale deliveries. Revenue of $114.1 billion. Folks, that is almost exactly double what Tesla's revenue was. Net income, a loss of $8.9 billion. So what happened there? Ford had unusual items. Let me see if I can very, very quickly bring up what those unusual items were. I think it was an Argo AI impairment. Is that right? I should have prepped this. Okay, so I'm going to drag this up and over. So here is the Q3 earnings release from Ford. And I'm just going to scan around very quickly and find their special items. Here they are. Okay, so they have a gain or loss on Rivian investment of $7.3 billion and an Argo impairment of $2.7 billion. So the Argo impairment hit during the third quarter of 2022, it shows here. The gain or loss on Rivian investment did not. Now this is just a timing thing, right? So Ford took a $9.1 billion gain on their Rivian investment in Q4 of 2021. And they have reversed $7.3 billion of that this year in 2022. So the net between those two is, you know, about $2 billion. And then with this Argo impairment, I mean, that would eat up the rest of it. So they're not making a lot of money on their investments in Rivian and Argo, but they sure are confusing people trying to make sense out of their total profits. So $8.9 billion worth of loss. What do you get when you divide that into the revenue? You get a negative 8.6% GAAP net income margin. I mean, I could have put NL here for a net loss margin. And then the profit or loss per delivery, they lost $2,894 per vehicle delivered in so far this year, year-to-date Q3. So maybe they'll get back to zero by the end of this year and have no profit at all to show for their vehicles. But if not, they'll have a full year loss per vehicle. So that's the comparison. I know which company I would be happy to invest in, and it's the one I am invested in, which is not trading advice, for entertainment purposes only, do your own research, etc. So that's my video. Let me check back in with Loki. He's still doing what he was doing. And I will outro and say if you've enjoyed today's video, click the like button for me. Boop that like button, as the pro YouTube channels say. And if you're not subscribed to my channel, you could go ahead and subscribe to my channel. If you feel like supporting my channel in other ways, there's links in the video description to my Patreon page, where you can say, thanks James, I like the cut of your jib, or you can join my YouTube channel. And I'd like to thank my executive producer, Kathy Kitchler, who did join my YouTube channel at the top tier support level. And I will see you in the next one.